Let's talk about Rainfurrest. Sorry you guys wait a little bit. I was stealing some monies and some computers and other stuff regarding this con. So, lessons learned. I'm on the board of Rainfurrest, so this is my background. I'm also on the board of Vancoufur. I originally helped start Califur. I used to work for Conference, the first furry convention. I helped start Rainfurrest. I helped start Vancoufur. I gave some technical tips and tributes towards starting Nordic Fuzz Con for a RMFC, Furry Fiesta, a few others. So that's my experience. I've been doing this for a while. Now, I'd love to say that it's all well. Yeah, go ahead.
He's in another panel right now.
Okay, then it is what it is. So I'd like to say that this is all well and good and everything is fantastic, but clearly I didn't do a good enough job, otherwise Rainfurrest wouldn't have happened. So, what did happen? Who's curious?
Yeah, I missed it this year.
Okay. I have decided to, okay, so let's start with why was the Rainfurrest board so quiet? So the Rainfurrest board was quiet because we got a letter from the hotel, and the hotel said, you guys are gonna send us a letter telling us you're canceling your event. And if you don't, we're gonna pretend like you did and charge you the cancellation fee, which was like 100,000 or something like that. Don't remember the exact amount.
116,000.
116,000. And then they said, and then we're gonna sue you for that amount of money. So they wanted us out. And why did they want us out? Well, we'll get into that. So the first thing that was discussed was, do we sign the letter or do we get a lawyer and fight? And that board meeting went pretty quick. If we fought and we won, where would we be? At a hotel that didn't damn well want us. So I bet that would have been a pleasant con. So we decided to say no. But unfortunately at that moment, that's sort of when we had a split in the board where half the board said, well then we need to tell everybody right now. And the other half of the board said, we should wait. We should get a new venue. There's no reason to panic people. We can get a new venue, and then we'll tell people, yeah, you know, this is where we're moving to. So the news could have been, rather than we canceled, we don't know what's going on, it could have been, you know, let's wait a little while and then say, hey, well, like all things in boards, they go to votes. And the tell people now vote won. So there we go, we tell people. So now people are like, well, what's going on? Like, you haven't sent us anything, you haven't sent us any information. All you've told us is it's canceled, and that's all we had. Also at the same time, there was some, I don't know, disagreement about whether or not we could tell people what was in the letter. So the problem with telling people what's in the letter is that it makes it difficult to, we weren't sure if the Hilton wanted us to. And they had a clause in their thing about non-disparagement. And the disagreement there was, is it non-disparagement or is it non-disclosure? And so then the new chairman, conjunction with the old chairman, wrote a letter to the attendees, telling them basically what we could tell them on the most part. And then that letter went out and everybody's like, well, this is obviously related to blah, blah, blah. Now, just so you guys know, I'll rewind a little bit here. We knew that we had problems at Rainfurrest. The hotel came to us, general manager came to us, talked to us. He said, you know, there's a lot more incidents this year. How are we going to plan to move forward? Everfree had the same problems and they decided to go this route. And we said what we wanted to do to go forward was the same way that Norwestcon goes, and they have plans and procedures. So we had plans and procedures in place. The general manager seemed to be okay. We're very confident the letter came from higher than the general manager. Whether it be the owner of that particular hotel or somebody at corporate Hilton, the letter came from higher than the general manager. He was okay to work with us. He said that we had some serious needs for improvement, but he was okay to work with us. So I think that and correct me if I'm wrong, my memory's a little foggy, I think that the letter from the chairman came out before the announcement that we were canceled, because we didn't know we were actually canceled at that time. We didn't get the letter that we were canceled until sometime after. So even right away after Rainfurrest, we know we had problems that needed to be fixed. Again, there was some disagreement on the board about whether or not we should send out this letter to poo-poo the attendees. There was a lot of disagreement about the verbiage of that letter. But being a board, you only get so many votes, and you know, everything's a voted thing, so it was voted that we were going to send the letter. Okay, that is what it is. Actually, what I think was voted was that that is the chair's business, not the board's business, so that they can send the letter if they wanted to. Rainfurrest is a hands-off board. So rather than being hands-on or hands-on means the board members can come around and diddle in the affairs of the event. We chose to be hands-off, which means rather than allowing a chairperson to come in and just to order around theater, no, it has to be set up this way. The Rainfurrest board and the Vancoufur board are limited to going to the chair and saying, we don't like what's going on in your theater, can you fix it? And that even is a request. The Rainfurrest board, if they really wanted to put the hammer down, would say, Chairman, you're fired. We're putting somebody else in. So that allows the chairman to have the freedom to say, you know what, this year I want to give out pins. Or this year I want to give out muffins. And do things that are non-traditional without having the old board come in and say, no, you just can't do that. So that's why the Rainfurrest board's hands-off, that's why the Vancoufur board's hands-off. And so that hands-off factor comes into play when the chairman says, I want to write a letter to the attendees. And we go, well, our choice isn't what's in your letter, our choice is, can you send the letter or not? Yes, you can. Now, they did go above and beyond that. The chair people came to us and said, well, we wanted to write this letter and this is what we want to do, and there was lots of discussion about that, which is why it works as a collaborative environment. So I've sort of been jumping around here, back and forth. Hope you guys are getting this story straight. So then we come to the point where we have decided that we're going to try to find a new venue. We go around, we try to find a bunch of new venues. Couldn't find anything in the local area. It seemed strange, almost as if like they were being talked to. And the agreement we signed with the Hilton was a mutual non-disparaging agreement. So technically, if anybody phones the Hilton or Hilton corporate, they should be unable to talk bad things about us, other than just say just the facts. And we know from our relationship with the general manager and others that it is very unlikely that they did say anything bad about us. They probably would have just stuck to the facts because they seemed to be pretty willing to work with us at the time. So then we go to Spokane, and that's when we find out for sure that there is a furry out there who is sending letters to every potential venue for Rainfurrest. And so that is what it is. So we get the contract with the
Davenport?
The Davenport and the conference center. They got contacted. They both contacted us and said, well, here's some things we're concerned about. Somebody contacted us about these things. And we said, okay, here's our plans to take care of that. We're planning on doing this. We're planning on having this. We're planning on having off-duty police officers to you know, in uniform to, you know, just discourage that kind of, you know, vandalism and drug stuff that we saw. And they're like, okay, you know, the conference center was like, fine. And then the Davenport got an additional contact through somebody, and they were like, well, we haven't signed the contract yet. It's pretty easy for us to back out. Okay, we'll back out. So then we had a conference center with no hotel, and we were like, well, you know, that's not going to work. So we canceled. So at some point, before we decided to go to Spokane, it came to vote. And I said, nope, we shouldn't go to Spokane. So there was a letter from the chairperson, which was quite interesting read. And it mentioned that there was one person who said that they didn't want to go to Spokane. That was me. And in my mind, Spokane would have been, and this is entirely me. And by the way, everything I'm saying here today is my rose-colored glasses as to what went on. I wanted to have Finn and Jean and a few other people up here on Finn apparently isn't available. This didn't get onto the schedule properly, so it's not as quite popular as I thought it would be. Sabretooth, I'm not sure where he was. In the end, it's just me up here. So remember, everything I'm saying is my own rose-colored glasses. This is how I see it, and I can only give you the information that I have. And my memory isn't perfect, so some of my information may or may not be accurate. So when the vote came up, I sat there and said, and my argument was we should not go to Spokane because our main demographics are from Portland, Vancouver, and Seattle. Seattle is used to traveling zero distance to get to their con. Some of those people, maybe most of them, probably don't even have a car. They're not going to drive to Spokane, so we'll lose half of those people. But Spokane is only 4 hours away, so anybody who does have a car will make the trip. Portland is 4 hours from Seattle, but 8 hours from Spokane. So now you have people driving twice the distance, and 8 hours is a long drive. So we're gonna lose about half those people, and we're gonna lose about half the people from Vancouver. Now I've done the drive, and I do the drive for this lovely boy over here every month or twice a month, and it's not so bad to Seattle. But I've also done the drive to Spokane, and that is probably the most boring, worst drive I have ever done in my life. And I've driven to California. So, it's boring. So I knew that Spokane would be half the size of Rainfurrest. And if people came to Spokane, they would be expecting Rainfurrest. And then they would get there, and then they would go home, and they would go, Rainfurrest sucked this year. And then next year, even less people would come. And I just sort of felt like Spokane was going to be a slow death for us. So when it came time to vote yes or no to Spokane, I voted no. All right, so that's pretty much the story. What killed Rainfurrest? What was the real problem? The hotel, in their letter, listed 10 to 15 items. I wanted to put the letter up on the projector, but we have no AV team and I don't have my email account, but... Oh, do you have a letter? And can you get it up on the projector?
I'm working on it.
Okay, so we're gonna get a letter up on the projector. It lists a bunch of bullet points about things that they had a problem with. So let's start with, if there is 10, I don't know that there's 10, I think there might be more or less. Only 2 of those bullet points did not talk about drugs. So in my mind, drugs was the major problem. Vandalism was not talked about in that letter, and maybe I'm wrong, we'll check it out. Vandalism was like a very minor part. Never in the entire duration of us being at Rainfurrest did the hotel ever approach us about paying for any damages to public spaces or private spaces. If they had, we have insurance. We also have like $116,000 or $100,000 or something in the bank account. So we have no problem paying for damages. So it's for that reason that I believe that damages had nothing to do with it. And this year's damages weren't substantially different than previous year's damages, or from damages that happened at Everfree. So for example, at Everfree, somebody went into the women's toilet, jumped in all the toilets until they had dislodged from the wall. Every single one of them in the public bathroom. That's a lot of damage. At ours, there was one bathroom that got flooded, and some people spread the rumor or said that it was sabotage, and other people just said it was a big guy sitting on the toilet and it broke. So that's a 50-50, who knows on that one. But other things that were talked about were things like 2,000 nitrous oxide cartridges just left there. 2 drug overdoses that required ambulances. The quote-unquote week-long party. So I don't blame the drugs as much as I blame the party atmosphere. And I don't even know how to properly say this, but I think that certainly, especially in the States, in Washington right now, marijuana, drugs, quote unquote, happen at these events, but when it gets to the extreme, it becomes too extreme. Oh, here we have a letter. Okay, so can we go down to the list of the bullet points? Okay. So, 2 attendee drug overdoses that required medical response and hospitalization for both attendees. What happens there? Somebody took mushrooms in their room and then overdosed. And then the other guy who was in the same room about half an hour later overdosed, probably on the same batch of mushrooms. Don't do mushrooms, okay? I don't know. Do mushrooms when you learn more about what you're doing if you're going to do that kind of crap. Over 2,000 spent nitrous oxide cartridges, which are used in illegal inhalant, found discarded in a guest corridor after the group checked out. So yeah, this is obvious. Like, I mean, that's a lot. There's clearly only one thing you were doing with those. You did not make a lot of whipped cream. So, actually, you know what? There's one furry I know who might have made that much whipped cream. But nonetheless, a drug arrest in the adjacent parking lot, a person that police believed has ties to the Rainfurrest group. So again, and that was a drug dealing arrest. So this is sort of where it got a bit extreme for Rainfurrest. Rainfurrest volunteer staff member was reported to have sexually assaulted a female. The responding sheriff charged the man. Okay, so this was an incident with one of the volunteers. They had, can't get too much into what happened. It happened in a public space. We're not talking like any rape charges, but the person who came forward to us, and the instant we hear about anything like that, we're like, call the police, we're done. Like, this is not something you deal with at the convention level. So we called the police as soon as we found out. We called the hotel in as soon as we found out. The sheriff came over. He was handcuffed, brought to the car, and then unhandcuffed and let go. I don't know what the status of any charges are. It's none of my business to know what the status of those charges are. If he does get a conviction, then he probably would never be back at Rainfurrest. Certainly, the instant we found that out, we took his badge, called the police, he was done. So, and whether or not those allegations are true or not, again, that's not our call. If he wants to come back next year and he says, look, I defeated it, the allegations weren't true, then certainly we take that into consideration. But the instant we pulled his badge, he got a 1-year ban, and he has to appeal that ban in order to be able to come back. So, and the fact that he was a volunteer, it looks bad on us, but these situations can happen with anybody. I'm not going to downplay that he was a volunteer, but certainly I don't think there was anything in his past that we should have been quote unquote made aware of to make him not a volunteer. Oh, and just to talk about that, we don't do background checks at Rainfurrest for volunteers. It might be something we change, certainly as for an aspect for that, but up until now, we did not make you do a background check to become a volunteer. And nor do we at Vancoufur. I don't think California does. There are some conventions that do, and that's why we're thinking about paying a little extra money to get that to happen. A guest room smoke detector was tampered with and discarded in a guest corridor. Yep, and that is, unfortunately, one that is very serious. Okay, we pay the hotel almost $1 million. What makes somebody turn down $1 million? Afraid somebody's gonna die because of drugs, and then it gets out that somebody died at your hotel and you have all the liability? Or what's better than one person dying, let's disable the smoke detector and have a bunch of people die. So that's why that's such a serious offense. Like, that is a massive serious offense. The hotel chose not to kick that party out. So we decided to not take their badge. So there was some dispute as to whether or not the smoke detector was tampered with before or after they entered their room. By the way, if you're ever in our room and there's no smoke detector, call the front desk immediately. And I won't state as to, whether or not that was true or not. Nobody knows whether or not it was in there or not. I guess the guest room people know. Maybe the hotel certainly feels they know from their side, and the guest room people feel like they know from their side, but in the end, the hotel is sitting there going, we had a hotel room with no freaking fire alarm. That's a serious, serious problem. Okay, so here's one that talks about damage. The elevator interior door cable was broken by an attendee trying to force the door open. And that had happened previous years. So that's bad, and that alone probably would have just been ignored. Any one of these things alone might have been. Rainfurrest security staff member was seen using marijuana. So yep, there was a Rainfurrest security staff member who was seen using marijuana. He had his badge taken away, and that happens. I think that basically he felt like it was legal and thereby not a problem, but he should have damn well known better than it wasn't allowed on the property. So, and then Hilton received a phone call, a follow-up email from an attendee complaining about the rampant drug and alcohol consumption that was allowed by Rainfurrest staff. So, and that's again what we're talking about. So, any questions? And if you want questions, line up at the mic. We'll just get that all.
So for Rainfurrest 2015, because both Washington and Oregon are dealing with marijuana being legal to be used and everything else, and there's a whole bunch of regulations about that. But a lot of hotels themselves, a lot of businesses do not allow that use on their property. So at Rainfurrest 2015, do you feel it was really clear to the attendees and a lot of the people there to know that on Hilton property no drug use, or was it kind of a, or do you think that was just a muddy water? What's your thoughts?
I think, and I'm just going to be blunt here, I think that it was made clear. Changes to the AUP were made clear. It was written in the con book. It was fairly well known. But the hype about the fact that marijuana was legal, people decided to just pretend they didn't know. And it's like, you're not allowed to cross a double yellow line, until you want to turn left, right? Like, it's one of those things that, oh yeah, well, we know it's a rule, but nobody's going to care if. But guess what? People cared.
Sorry, just on the same point. I attended this year, and it wasn't clear. And one thing with it, that there was no staff that said anything to anyone that they noticed. Like, I saw lots of people doing it, and there was nothing communicated. It wasn't, yes, it's written in the comm book. I ran Northwest Vancoufur. I did security for them last year, and we had all sorts of stuff written in our comm book, and nobody reads it. So we had to make it very clear through our staff and everybody else that. But one of the questions I actually do have, I've heard from a couple other people that there was a reluctance from security staff. I don't know if you've heard the same thing, to actually like either ban people or confront people at the con for any infractions they were doing.
If you have anything else, well, I'll stop you there and then we'll go on. That brings up a couple of really good points. So one of the things that I wanted to talk about was de-escalation tactics. Our security was really poor this year. And to that, I can only apologize. But one of the first things I looked into after the convention was talking to a de-escalation trainer and talking to a de-escalation specialist. Now, if I don't get the opportunity to implement that with Rainfurrest, I will implement that with Vancoufur, and we already have started. One of the huge problems we had was security with a chip on their shoulder, or something to prove, or respect my authority. We had one person who told me, well, they should have their badge taken. They didn't do what I told them to do. That's entirely unacceptable. Well, it says in the con book that you have to do what security says. So if I tell you to drop your pants in public, you have to do that or be kicked out? Like, what kind of BS is that? Like, that rule is there for things that fall between the cracks. That is not there for us to abuse. And this guy refused to throw away a plastic cup. Like, what kind of BS is that? So I knew immediately, and the sniffing alcohol. We were asked by the hotel towards the late end of the convention to sniff people's glasses. We should have just said no. We didn't know at the time, or the people who were doing security didn't know they could tell the hotel, no, we are not there to do that for you. If you want that done, use your own security. We know, And certainly we would do that in the future. We would say, sorry, we can't do that. That's not our training. But we also need de-escalation training. When somebody comes to you and says, well, I just want to get in the dance. Well, you don't have your badge. Well, I want to get in the dance. Well, you don't have your badge. You're not getting in there. I'm not letting you in. Get out of here. You're escalating the situation. And you could go, well, okay, what do you need in the dance? Well, I left my badge in there. Okay, let me send somebody in and we'll grab it for you. Can you wait here? Like, this situation could be changed so easily by so many things. So that was the sort of one of the things that brought up when you mentioned the first half. But the second half, which I'm trying to remember here, your question was regarding Northwest Fan Fest.
No, it's just that nobody read.
Yeah, nobody reads those.
The stuff. Just the staff not communicating, and it's to the same end. I actually trained I did security for 10 years and trained officers for 5 if you're to de-escalate situations.
Yeah.
But it's that transfer of information verbal because nobody reads them.
Yeah, and I agreed. It could have been made more clear and should have been. But there was still something else you said on the other half.
No, there was your security staff not confronting people, because there's both de-escalation of a situation and also confronting something or somebody of a situation. And when you have people who won't, you can't deal.
Yeah, and unfortunately, we had both. We had security staff who wouldn't tell people, but we also had security staff that wanted to go and just handcuff them, or something, I don't know, right? So we had some that were too aggressive and some that were too passive, and certainly we could have had just staff that said, you're not allowed to smoke that on property, go, And in fact, we had one person, and I'm just bringing in all the dirty laundry here, so you guys are lucky, and I'm probably gonna ask you to not post that video, mister, but we'll see. But I'm okay with hanging out the dirty laundry here, because if we don't learn the lessons, I've always been transparent. Rainfurrest is supposed to be transparent as far as I'm concerned, but I am going a little rogue from the board here, so I might get in crap for this. Nonetheless, we had one incident where somebody did go smoke that off property, and then security followed him. Why? And then after security followed him, the guy got mad. And then security got mad and called for backup. And that's not going anywhere good. That could not, there's no other option than bad. So again, those people, we need more training. We need more staff.
Very good.
Did you get an opportunity to see the letters that were going to the other hotels from wherever this party is?
I have a very large suspicion. I know who it is. I don't know whether I'm opening myself up to a libel lawsuit if I tell you who it is. But I will tell you, I'm pissed off. I will tell you that there was an incident with diapers being found on people's cars. And being in the baby fur community, when I saw pictures of these diapers, I was a little surprised because these are the El Cheapo brand you can buy from the drugstore that no real baby fur would have any interest in. And then I was really surprised when I saw somebody posting a picture of themselves on social media wearing the same brand and being farcical. And it's so you're really just there to cause shit, right? And that's not proof. It's not real proof, so we can't really do anything about it. But I know who you are, and we know you did it. And then when you phone the hotel and you say, well, there was these people who were drunk, because I was the one who did that, and I know that. And they found diapers, because I was the one who did that, and I know that. And the hotel comes to us and says, these are the things that were talked about in that letter, and you're pretty much the only person who could have known that. Yeah, in my heart of hearts, I know who it is. Means, motive, and opportunity abound, and it pisses me off.
Can you speak specifically to what any of the bullet points were that the potential hotels listed as reasons why they didn't want to do business?
Drugs and alcohol and I think the diaper thing was mentioned. And so drugs, it's easy to say Rainfurrest has a drug problem. We damn well knew Rainfurrest had a drug problem. And then that person, of course, copied the public letter that we sent out. The chairman's letter that got sent out obviously got sent to them. And then all they do then is they call up the Hilton and go, did they have a problem with drugs? Yeah. And that does not fall under that non-disparagement agreement. They're telling the truth. They're not disparaging us, they're telling us the truth. So, did they have problems with drugs? Yep. Did they have problems with this? Yep. Did they have problems with that? Yep. But they're still a good group anyway. Well, that last part, even if they said it didn't help, doesn't matter, right? So, yeah. And then otherwise, no, the Davenport would not send us a copy of the letter. They are worried about retaliation, and that's fair. There's nothing wrong with them being worried about it. That doesn't mean that we would do that. It just means that they're within their rights to not tell us.
I was just thinking, and I'm sure that this is probably a dead and beaten horse when it comes to RF staff and other folks, is that, at least for myself, the subject's come up, 10 dozen times kind of a deal. So when it comes to security, or for other things like for Vancoufur, where we have, this is not someone's personal theater system that they keep stored in their garage, but similarly we rely on volunteers to fulfill that role. What are your thoughts when it comes to, at a certain point, to say we're going to hire out security, or we're going to rely on something along those lines? Just picking your brain.
Boy, my thoughts over security have gone on a roller coaster ride over the last period of time. When I found out that we had such problems, you'll see postings from the FA and other places. I was pretty pissed off. And since then, I talked to the de-escalation specialist. Since then, I talked to people who work for the Black Rock Rangers, which for those of you who don't know are who does security for Burning Man, and clearly they have drugs there, so they might know how to deal with those things well. I've talked to sheriffs, I've talked to security training specialists, I've talked to a lot of people to try to figure out the best way to resolve this for us. Sorry, I forgot the part of the question. What was the heart of the question? Oh, what were my feelings?
Yeah. What were your feelings on hiring out security? And a part that I forgot to mention was because when you have a relatively small staff, if you have that hired out, then those folks who used to rely on volunteer security may be able to help in ops or other such things.
So I've always been wary and worried about what FC and AC do. They have outside security for non-furry organizations. I have been to FC, I have not been to AC. I have never heard good stories. No, I guess I've heard a lot of bad stories about the way people are treated from both of those outside organizations. However, if it was choice between that and hiring Joe Schmo security company off the street, you can't. Joe Schmo security company off the street will be like, well, there's a new party, you're out, and oh, there's something, you're out. You need somebody who's understanding. I always thought, mistakenly or not, that it was better for us to have our own security team. They understand. Oh shit! Now I remember what I talked to you about. They understand this need for. Can somebody get me a pen and paper? I need to write these things down. When you in the back in the camo shirt, what I wanted to answer your question was about us having reluctance to kick people out. So can you just remember that? And then I'll get back to that. So, and that's part of the answer here, is that we have a reluctance to kick people out to some extent. We simply don't just, and that got misinterpreted, I feel, because it wasn't a reluctance. We don't ever want to kick anybody out under any circumstance. That's a bastardization of what's being said there. What's being said there is we want to do our best to enjoy the con and have people enjoy the con. So the reluctance to kick people out is not, we're not willing, it's not an unwillingness. It's, if this guy who's a little bit tipsy can go back to his room, that's better than this guy who gets a little bit tipsy, gets immediately called to the police, right? And so when the ops guy in that letter sat there and said, well, I will do everything I can to prevent somebody from getting, from having the police called, that's, I will have somebody go with them to babysit them. I will have my security people walk them back to their room. I will have, you know, we will do things within our limits to try to ensure that they wake up tomorrow morning and have a better time. One of the things that we introduced, and maybe should have had a lot earlier, is badge suspensions instead of badge revocations. So Rainfurrest, up until this point, we take your badge, that's it, you're gone, you're banned, you have to go to a board for appeal. We come up with this idea through the help of all these people that now security, even lower people than the chair and vice chair, can now take your badge and say, your badge is suspended for the evening. Come to a meeting tomorrow morning at 10, we'll discuss whether or not you get it back, and if you, probably in your best interest for us to not see you again for the rest of the night, and then in the morning coolers head to fail. And that happened here yesterday for the first time. I don't know if you know, the elevators were shut down, tower elevators, people got stuck in the elevators, they jumped. And they shouldn't have, because that's dumb. And so then we suspended their badges for the evening, we brought them in a meeting in the morning, and it wasn't just good for them, it was good for us. Last night, we're all riled up. We're dealing with the police, we're dealing with the hotel, we're dealing with the fire. Everybody's in a not happy mood, it's late at night, we want to take their badges. And then this morning, we get to the meeting at 10 a.m. and we're like, here's what we're gonna do, boys. Write down your addresses. If the hotel comes to us with fines on this, you're gonna pay them. But you guys know what you did was stupid and you're sorry. Here's your badges back, have a good time, right? It was cooler heads for me and I'm sure the other people involved, and cooler heads prevail. Like, that's just so much better. So in terms of using an outside event security, we might. I have a little bit of resistance to it. I want to have the team pulling together. However, Rainfurrest clearly didn't have the number of volunteers. Also, there's a big cost associated with those. A lot of those, the organization, the one organization we had the opportunity to use, we had to buy them all hotel rooms, guest rooms, memberships, and that is unfortunately just too much of a cost for like a group like Rainfurrest, Vancoufur to buy. Rainfurrest probably could have afforded it, but if we had our own security team, why would we need to? Okay, you're on the board, aren't you? I just realized that. Get your butt up here.
One of the things you just said reminded me of a disclosure question. And I'm wondering what your thoughts are on how helpful it would be to use social media or other outlets during a convention to highlight, without pointing fingers, people's stupid behavior for the education of others. Like, do you see a benefit in using something like the Vancoufur Twitter account to say, we had an incident with the elevators, please don't jump up and down, you know that's dumb, let's have a good time, so that other young folks don't have the same brilliant idea?
Potentially. I think that we'd have to discuss that as a board, because it boils down to the other side of the coin of, oh, we can go break the elevators by jumping up and down, let's go do that. My personal heart, and this is maybe the Canadian in me, is that nobody would do that. I mean, people know, I don't think there's anybody that stupid out there, but then everybody calls me naive, so, you know. And then there's other things that might be a little more serious that wouldn't warrant that, and other things that would be less serious that would warrant that, right? So I think that we learned a big lesson about having communication. Even the Rainfurrest board, the big period of silence that we had is a big lesson in communication. We need to get that out more. One of the things we're doing this year is the party liaison, where we're having these meetings with the party, people who are hosting parties, and we're gonna let them know about all the issues we had, all the noise complaints, where they were, who was located, who was drunk, and then hopefully they'll let us know who they had problems with. We need to work more with the parties so that the parties who are behaved can do their thing and have fun, and the parties who are not behaved don't feel well. You know, one of the other ones that we got rid of here was dance passes. As stupid as it sounds, I feel like dance passes contributed to the problem because we ended up having a bunch of people who were coming in who were really ravers, not really furries. So they would come to the dances, they would only buy the dance-only membership, and then they'd bring alcohol into the dance floor. We're not allowed to bring alcohol into any of the function spaces because if we were to have alcohol in here, it should be purchased from the hotel. So that's one of the things hotels protect is their profit margins. And then it became a problem. And so it was like, okay, so you're here for the party, maybe you're here for the drugs, and we're having a lot of problems with you guys, so you know what, we're just gonna get rid of these dance-only memberships, and if you're not here for the furry convention part of it, then just don't come. And if you're coming to Rainfurrest, and you're coming to Vancoufur, and you're here for the drug scene, and not the furry scene, just don't come. There's other places for you guys. But we need to make sure we're here for the furry scene, primarily.
So I'll follow up, perhaps not on social media because it wouldn't be an appropriate outlet, but my interest is in how to better control the rumor mill, which is pervasive, even in the 15 minutes, that we were waiting for you to arrive. I heard an inordinate amount of rhetoric throughout the room of what I know is mostly false information. And I think it's because that information about what happens at a con that is negative is not communicated even in an objective or statistical manner. So I'm thinking something along the lines of like a police blotter type of thing where you can just have a anonymous, yes, something happened in the elevator, yes, there was a party, yes, people got kicked out for this, no, there wasn't an arrest here, things that list the facts of the events from like a security or operations perspective, so that rather than the whole convention running around saying, oh, X happened, it would be more of a, no, this is the fact of the incident, and
yeah, I get where
for
you're
those
going
who
there.
care.
I've always been, we should let everybody know every gory detail if they're interested in finding it. It should be up on our board page. Here's the incident. Some conventions will deny, we didn't have any ambulances, really, because there's like 60 photos of that ambulance. So what's that? Oh, that's a rave truck. Oh, okay. You know, so I've never been for deny. I've always been for exactly that. We should post every fact so that the rumor mill doesn't have any ammunition. You know, and that's why I wanted to put the letter up. It's like, there's the letter, there's the facts. And actually, Keita, can we get that letter back up on screen? Did you log out? And then you wanted to respond to this too, right? So I was always up for show everything. You know, show our budget. Oh, well, somebody might steal our budget. Who cares? Like, who cares, right? If we're trying to be transparent, we should be transparent, like fully, everything out there. And maybe we have to redact names so that we don't get libel lawsuits. But, you know, it sucks to sit there and say, yeah, we had a staff member who is allegedly sexually assaulted somebody. That sucks. But that's what it is, that's there, right? And now, you know, when somebody sits there and says, well, you know, he murdered 6 people. No, see, there's the facts right there. That's what we have. I'm hearing that we're getting wrapped up soon here. Do we know if there's another panel in here coming up soon? No? Okay. I'll keep going until they literally kick me out. And you can ask any question. This will really get me kicked off boards. You can ask me any question about any convention that I am involved with at all, and I will just say it as I see it.
So I will happily admit to being a part of rumor mill, so to speak, because even things that I was talking about before you arrived, I was just like, no, it wasn't the baby furs, no, it wasn't this, but it was the vandalism. Like, it was because that's where I thought the big thing was. But that being said, once you have that blotter up, or that kind of list of incidents, something I see happening is that folks are going to be able to get educated on, you know, how do bans and suspensions work, because the conversations will be started by the incidents list. And this is just something where convention attendees will know the distinction that if a security person says, oh, you're banned, it's like, oh no, the attendee might know already that that ban would come from a higher power and not react very badly to it. So I just wanted to point out that that'll help everyone, have more of that institutional knowledge.
Yeah, it helps the rumor mill, and it helps us be transparent. Again, I'll say that this letter is from the Hilton, and as far as I'm concerned, showing this letter is not disparaging them. I am not saying that they did anything wrong or mean or vindictively towards us by sending us this letter. They were protecting their hotel, and that is their job. So I have no problems with the fact they sent us this letter. There was something you said that made me want to talk about something. Damn it. That happens. It was something tangent to what you were saying, actually. Oh, the baby fur thing. Okay, so the baby fur thing. We all saw the picture of the baby fur. Who knows what happened there? Who thinks they knows what happened there? Okay, I don't know what happened there, because why? I wasn't there. But I have been receiving a consistent story from a number of people that I believe to be true. We have a panel at Rainfurrest that was hosted by Seattle pups and handlers. And that panel was an adult-only panel. And the story that I got was that this person was in that panel room wearing nothing but a diaper. He was one of the panelists talking about different fetishes. The panel room got opened up and for the next panel, and all the people went flooding into the panel room, and this guy got bumped into the hallway because there wasn't enough room left in the panel room. He was trying to make his way back into the room to get his pants when somebody caught a picture of him, and he goes back into the room and gets his pants back on and leaves. Security was not there because security can't be everywhere. And from as far as I know, the incident lasted all of a minute. So, yay, somebody got a picture of it, and yay, they wanted to go around telling everybody about how every attendee at Rainfurrest wears nothing but a diaper, and congratulations. But, it's a great story. It's a great rumor mill piece. Kind of frustrating on my side, but, it is what it is. Some of these things happen. You see people who are doing inappropriate dress, inappropriate clothing in the hallway, and you can say, oh, yeah, you're not allowed to do that. Vancouver, I've worked with Vancouver to adopt a policy. There's lots of cons out there. No harnesses unless it's correct for the animal. What the hell does that even mean? No fetish wear. So no fursuits then? Like, that's a fetish for most fursuits. So okay. No rubber. Well, that's at least a little bit easier to distinguish, right? I don't like those hard and fast rules. So what we did with the training for Vancouver staff this year, and what we're trying out, is we went and downloaded like 100 pictures online of various states of dress and various states of fursuiting and the various appropriateness, and we all sat down and we said, is this appropriate before 10? No. And that's how we got all the staff members on the same page. So essentially, we have a rule. It's a anytime suit, it's a after 10 p.m. suit, or it's a bedroom multi-suit. And there is no hard and fast rules about what that is defined as. But if a security officer comes up to you and says, hey, either take off this part of your suit, or maybe go back to the bedroom, or come back at 10, that's what the goal is there. And one of the things that was discussed was cuffs are okay, and harnesses are okay, but cuffs and harnesses at the same time sort of bring it to a next level. And so, and of course, again, it depends on what the style of harness is and what the material of the harness is. Like, there's all these things that get involved with that decision-making process that, yeah. Okay, now that you have the letter up, did you want to come up and say anything, or you can say stuff like that there if you want? Do you have anything to add?
On the social media thing, at Rainfurrest we've always had a marketing department, and they've always been extremely protective about allowing other departments access to the social media. And this, basically, there was a drama explosion on the staff chat when I suggested that the possibility that the operations department should have a password for the Twitter in case of an emergency.
Yeah, fiefdoms. Fiefdoms are a problem at Rainfurrest. Fiefdoms are a problem at Vancouver. When you get into an organization and you start having organizational trees and and department leads and department sectors, fiefdoms become a problem because I don't want you to mess in my department. It's changed from when we first started Rainfurrest in Vancouver, where it was just us getting together in the house, going, wouldn't this be cool? And we could try this or we could try that. I think that we've got to figure out how to get back to that. And we've got to figure out how to get new staff. So if you guys have never staffed a convention before, you got to think about it. Because I'll be honest, there's a lot of burnout. Fucking, I'm not on TV. There are shit tons, metric shit tons of burnout at Rainfurrest in Vancouver. And I will tell you, if we don't get new staff, if we don't figure out how to get new staff, we won't live another 5 years. It boils down to some people didn't enjoy what was going on, so they quit. You have fewer people doing 10 times the work, so they quit. And you have fewer people doing even more work, and fewer people even doing more work, until you have people like this week. I've been doing enough work for a horse and a cart. Like, I don't even know how to say it. So anyhow, we need to find a way of getting new, younger staff in. And I think that boils down to being open and creative. These fiefdoms are part of what causes the problem. Everybody is king of their own castle. They don't want to hear your new way of doing things. And if you're not heard, you don't want to join staff. What's the point of just being an underling, right? So, anybody has ideas? Come on and tell me. If anybody out there has ideas for recruiting or for staff or how we can make it more fun, I am all ears. Well, maybe not all ears. That's him.
I'm all ears.
Any questions, comments, things about any convention ever?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hi.
Hi.
I just wanted to say, first of all, very positive to hear your the policy on badge removal for incidents that happen. That seems like a very progressive step from what I personally experienced at Rainfurrest.
Tell us your Rainfurrest story, but hold the mic up a little bit.
Oh, okay. The one with the smoke detector, that was actually my group, and we were falsely accused with removing a smoke detector in our room.
Yeah.
And so my personal question actually relates to that. In the event that, say, hotel staff or security accuses an attendee of something that doesn't happen, what is your policy for standing up for people, or how do you go about?
Can I tell your story a little more?
Sure.
Do I have your permission to?
Yeah, go ahead.
Of it?
We can go over this and we can.
And I don't want you to be angry,
Oh,
but I'm probably not going to say what you want me to say.
Oh.
His story boils down to essentially the idea that the security, or the fire detector wasn't in there when they checked in, and either they didn't notice. Unfortunately, one of their members didn't have the same story. He says two of them said, well, we didn't know what it was, so we didn't think anything of it. One of them said, well, we saw the smoke detector missing, but we didn't care, or didn't tell anybody. So for lessons learned for everybody else in the future, if something's missing off the wall, you phone them up and you say, what the hell is that supposed to be, and why isn't it there? The part where it starts to fall apart is what you guys basically, and this is what I've heard, so since I've never really talked to you, I've got maybe a rumor mill thing going on here, so this would be great to find out. So what we were told was that basically you guys felt like it was the cleaning staff who had either removed it and then placed it out in the hallway somewhere. And if that's the story, then I can understand why the hotel would go, first of all, the cleaning staff doesn't have any idea who you are, so why would they have any reason to target you? And second of all, why would they do that? They have hundreds of rooms. And third of all, your story just falls to pieces, right? So then when the hotel goes, yeah, we don't believe you, I get why they say, yeah, we don't believe you. So now, do tell us what the real story is.
Okay.
I see you shaking your head there. And lift the mic up a little bit. Or you can just hold it if you want.
Well, there were two issues with this. The first one is that the hotel actually admitted to us the fire system was not active when we checked in. And the fire system actually is meant to detect when there is a smoke detector missing. It's legally
Which makes sense. That was the thing I was curious about. Like, why the hell
Yeah.
didn't they did this door-to-door search? Because I guess it might have come online and told them that there was, but for some reason they had to do a door-to-door search.
And they
to
also
find-
admitted to us that they had just been in the process of replacing the fire detectors.
Are you kidding me? Seriously?
And the third thing, they never showed us the fire detector that they'd supposedly found in the hallway.
Well, I mean, they don't really have to show you that. But
Well, we
if they
asked,
had just been-
we said to them, you know, did you find one? And I guess, you know, so many people know who I am in this local community, and they know that I'm not the type of person to do that. But it was just very disappointing that the staff member who was there pretty much was like instantly, you're guilty, you know, shame on you, you're the, you know, it was very disappointing that the
before you
staff wasn't
continue-
able to stand up for us.
I'll talk to that. And,
Yeah, that's sort of what I was like, my question was, how do you go about standing up for people in the event that, you know, they're accused of something?
well, let's talk about the staff member being angry, right? And
I get
this
why.
is an issue, and you get why, but it shouldn't have to be you get why. So to everybody else, staff member was upset. Why? We had one issue with a drug overdose. We just handled that. We had one issue up in the upper half where we have this guy who's demanding that somebody throw away a plastic cup and is getting all upset about it. Then immediately following that, we have the second drug overdose. And then immediately following that, we have this room. By that point, the chair is burned. The chair is Mr. Angry. I'm done with these bastards who are just like, and that in itself is a problem. Talking about de-escalation. Oh, hey, cuteness. Talking about
You know you're all ears.
Kay's all ears. That in itself is a problem. We need to find some way where it shouldn't have been that same person dealing with all that other crap going to your room, because how can they possibly approach the situation from a level playing field, right? They've got all this stuff in their head from the last calls that they've had, so it was unfair to either side to send somebody, but that's what it was, that's what it's always been, and I don't even know that I have a fix for that yet. That being said, in terms of your particular room, the fact that they were doing their own fire testing, why would, if, the hotel, that is a little bit frustrating, because in a story where you say, well, you just started your fire testing and you just upgraded all your fire alarms and you missed a room and you didn't catch it till now, that is a perfectly logical thing that could happen, right? So, I don't know what can be done about that. And then, did you get a ban letter? No, I don't think you did.
We weren't banned.
So you guys weren't banned and you guys weren't going to attend back, and so if you had been banned, you would be able to approach the board and say, you know, I am...
Yeah, they did realize after talking to us for about half an hour, and I was just in the middle of getting changed from fursuiting, so I was just in my Under Armour, which was a little bit embarrassing. But they realized after talking to us for like half hour that we're actually pretty level-headed people.
Yeah.
So thankfully there was that, but
The one thing that sticks in my mind from talking to the person you were talking to, one of you was sitting back with their feet up and the other one was texting. And the person who was trying to deal with, and by the way, for all the rest of you, the general manager was there, the head of housekeeping was there, the head of security was there, the head of, there was like 4 or 5 department heads from the hotel, and our chairperson there, and these 3 guys, and 2 of them are sitting back with their feet up and twiddling on their iPhones and text messaging while we're trying to have a serious conversation. That was seen as very disrespectful, and so that probably is what led Rex to lean less in your favor, because, and that's just an interpersonal thing, like that's, I'm not saying that you were doing wrong by doing that, but I can definitely see on Rex's side, after all the other crap he had put up with, and I don't want to make excuses for the guy, but if you're ever dealing with people like that in the future, and I'm talking to everybody, not just you, just paying attention and acting, even if you don't think it's serious, acting as if you think it is as serious as they are, but I would prefer that instead of acting, you guys just put yourself in the other person's shoes, because that's a big part of de-escalation. You know, I put myself in the other person's shoes, and where does the drunk want to go, and why does the drunk want to go there? And then I can understand. And the same thing the other way around. If this person is yelling at me and mad at me, why are they mad at me? And, oh, okay, I get why they'd be upset about this. Now I just need to tell them, hey, it had nothing to do with it.
So, and actually, as you're working on, you asked for a fix and something popped into my head, so I've been visited by the Good Idea Fairy.